Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down what is literally the most significant and, frankly surprising, reset of federal nutrition policy we've seen in decades. Just recently, the Department of Health and Human Services and the USDA rolled out the new 2025-2030 Dietary Guidelines for Americans. We're going to dive right into the official announcements, look closely at the source material, and unpack this massive wave of reactions from doctors and agricultural groups alike. Our goal? To understand exactly what is changing on your dinner plate. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the historic nutrition reset, flipping the food pyramid, the war on sugar and ultra-processed foods, embracing protein and fats, and finally, the national reaction. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the historic nutrition reset. For years, dietary advice has felt, incredibly complex, right? But this new iteration strips all of that away. The overarching directive from HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins comes down to just 3 simple words: eat real food. That's it. Instead of forcing us to do complex macronutrient math or obsessive calorie counting, the administration is pointing Americans straight toward whole, minimally processed ingredients. And this shift is incredibly stark when you actually look at the documents themselves. We're talking about going from a dense, textbook-sized 149-page manual down to a concise 10-page guide. 10 pages. Registered dietitians are already noting that this dramatic reduction really cuts through the noise. It finally makes the advice actionable for everyday families, not just nutrition scientists. Moving right along to Section 2, flipping the food pyramid. This brings us to what is perhaps the most visually striking change in these new guidelines. For decades, you and I were taught to build our diets on this massive base of refined grains, right? All while dodging saturated fats like the plague. While medical professionals are pointing out that this old script has been totally flipped. Refined grains and sugars, they're now pushed way down to the bottom as items you want to limit. Meanwhile, nutrient-dense proteins, healthy fats, and vegetables take the absolute center of the plate. It's a complete paradigm shift. Which leads us directly into Section 3, the war on sugar and UPFs. A major theme across all the expert reactions is the super aggressive stance these guidelines take against highly processed products. Health policy advisors are making it really easy to identify what we need to ditch. Ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. You know the ones. They usually come in brightly colored boxes or bags with these massive lists of artificial ingredients. Think packaged cakes, cookies, pretzels, potato chips, and those ready-to-eat microwave meals. If you want to make simple, everyday swaps, experts suggest trading those packaged chips for whole food alternatives, like a handful of mixed nuts or some fresh fruit. Instead of pouring a bowl of sugary cereal, maybe whip up some eggs or plain oatmeal. The golden rule they're pushing here: replace foods created in a lab with foods found in nature. And medical professionals are looking at this explicit warning against sugary, convenient foods as a massive, massive victory. Take prominent cardiologist Dr. Dariush Mozaffarian, for example. He points out that having the federal government explicitly tell Americans to eat less of this heavily marketed class of food, that is a ground-shaking change in public health strategy. So for families looking for actionable advice to help reverse this chronic disease epidemic, experts highlight 3 key steps straight from the new policy. Step 1, limit added sugars and UPFs. Step 2, choose whole, minimally processed plant and animal foods. But Step 3 is the real game changer. Cook at home instead of eating out. It is literally the single most effective way to avoid the hidden sugars and seed oils packed into restaurant meals. By just roasting some veggies, pan-searing your meats, and controlling the ingredients in your own kitchen, you naturally eliminate the vast majority of those ultra-processed additives. Let's turn our attention to Section 4, embracing protein and fats. With processed carbs out of the spotlight, the new guidelines dramatically shift the focus toward high-quality protein and healthy fats. To get more of these nutrient-dense proteins into your family's meals, the administration is now strongly endorsing whole foods. We're talking red meat, poultry, eggs, pulses like beans and lentils, and seafood. A great actionable tip experts recommend for families is to batch prepare these proteins, like, say, roasting a whole chicken on Sunday, just to conquer those crazy busy weeknights. Interestingly, the guidelines also encourage introducing seafood to infants as early as 6 months to prevent allergies. Oh, and they officially welcome full-fat dairy, like whole milk and aged cheese, right back to the dinner table. I mean, talk about a fascinating scientific U-turn. For decades, we were told to swap butter for margarine and rely on refined seed oils. Now, doctors are pointing out that whole food fat sources are actually recognized as beneficial. The government is effectively ending its long-standing war on saturated fats. Experts suggest some really simple cooking swaps here. Go back to traditional fats like butter, beef tallow, or extra virgin olive oil, and just leave those highly processed vegetable oils on the supermarket shelf. Which brings us to our final part today, Section 5, the national reaction. So how is the nation actually responding to this historic reset and the Make America Healthy Again agenda? Well, what's truly fascinating is the cross-sector consensus it's making for some very strange bedfellows. You actually have the Plant-Based Food Association nodding in agreement with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Think about that for a second. From vegan advocates to cattle ranchers and pediatricians to cardiologists, there is overwhelming broad praise for this food is medicine approach to combating chronic illness. Across the board, political figures and health influencers are framing this as a revolutionary rejection of corporate food interests. The current administration argues that past dietary guidelines were heavily influenced by corporate lobbying, which they say fueled the rates of obesity and diabetes. So, this new policy is being presented by them as a definitive end to that era. It's a clear statement meant to prioritize human health over highly processed convenience. As we wrap up this explainer, we are left with one absolutely critical question. The government has fundamentally altered its nutritional advice. The food pyramid has been flipped upside down, the war on saturated fat is seemingly over, and the target is now squarely on ultra-processed foods. But now that the guidelines are a simple 10-page document telling us to just eat real food, will everyday Americans, schools, and hospitals actually make the shift back to real, whole ingredients? I mean, that is the multi-trillion-dollar question for the future of American healthcare. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep asking the right questions.